Hello, everyone. It's Brian here with what I think is installment 4 of something I think I called Random Records from My Collection Selected by You. Something like that. If you don't know what's going on here, you can follow the link below to my original video, which describes what's happening. Feel free to take part. I've received, I think, 51 or 52 record requests, so that is very cool. Now, before I start, I will just give a note to Barefoot Steve 6104. I did leave a reply to your comment noting that Cube 58 doesn't actually exist. I end at 52. So if you want to make a different selection, feel free, and I'll get to that as soon as I can. So I'm going to show 6 records today, and I'll put links to those who have channels or indicate who made the request. So the first one comes from Bill, that's BG Cummings, who I think is from the LA area. And before I tell you what record he chose, I would encourage you to have a look at his channel. I think he's been making videos for somewhere around a year, and he has 72 subscribers. I think he deserves a lot more than that. So if you want, feel free to visit his channel. If you like what you see, please subscribe to him. So he said Cube 36, record 41, please. I do like the please. And that turns out to be The Runaways, and Now the Runaways, which is their 4th record from 1979, and there they are looking rather stylish, I guess, for 1979 on the cover. You know, this is a band that's often described as punk or sort of punk, but I'm not sure that's quite right. After all, my dad didn't mind this band, and that probably had to do with the fact that they're all women. You got Joan Jett, Lita Ford, Sandy West, and I think Vicky Blue is here for the first time. Someone else left around this time, Sherry Curry at the party. No, there's obviously been many people in this band, so I guess this is close to the classic era. Here's the reverse of this Canadian pressing. I actually really like this record. I think the first 3 are better, but this is actually pretty entertaining. Opens with Saturday Night Special, which is pretty good. If there's a weak point on this record, it's probably the cover of 8 Days a Week, the Beatles track. I just think it's a bit, I don't know, lackluster, maybe a bit lazy. It just doesn't really work. I think it's just missing something. On the other hand, the Slade cover, Mama We're All Crazy Now, I think is terrific. The rest of the songs are all quite good. Also has Black Leather, written by Steve Jones of the Sex Pistols. So all in all, I think a pretty entertaining record from an entertaining band. Who doesn't like an all-female band? And I'll show you the label here for this Canadian pressing, if I can get it out. So, pretty fine record. That's a good choice. Thank you, Bill, for that. Let's see what's that. I'd have to look here because it says who chose these records as I go along. I'll never remember. So, the next one, second record today, is chosen by Emma from 8 Vinyl Low. She is someone I have met. I met her in Buffalo last year at MGK's party. I met a lot of people there over the years, over the 2 years I've gone. And I guess you could say that she's the VC's biggest Cheap Trick fan. Big fan of power pop as well. Actually, a recent video, she talked about this Paul McCartney listening party she went to, and she won a prize there, which is very cool. Anyway, Emma said, Bin 19, record number 7, Smiley Face. And this is a record I've shown only once. It came up another time. I'm not quite sure why. And when I showed this record, I said there's a song on here that you know, even though you don't think you know it. So this is from a band called Indio, called Big Harvest. Now, Indio is really one person. It's Gordon Patterson. But he is joined by a number of our musicians on here. They're all listed here. Just a giant list of people on each track, including people like Joni Mitchell on backing vocals, David Rhodes from Peter Gabriel's band, and Van Dyke Parks even makes an appearance. He only did one record. I don't know what he's doing now. He did one record. This was sort of known in Canada. It's kind of a hard record to find. It's from 1989. And I've never seen a second copy of this. This is the only copy I've ever seen in person, but I'm sure people have found it. Now, when I say there's a song in here that you undoubtedly know, that is a song called Hard Sun, which was covered by Eddie Vedder on the Sean Penn film Into the Wild, I guess it was called. He did a cover of this track. The original is really good. The cover version is also good. It's very popular. However, Gordon sued Eddie Vedder because of the cover version, because Eddie changed the lyrics a bit, and there was some sort of court case, and eventually it was settled. So that probably made him a lot of money. So it's a song that I quite like. In fact, the whole album is really good, if you ask me. It's maybe a little unheralded, and that song was such a big song, even the original, that maybe the rest of the tracks didn't get very much attention. Very boring polylined A&M sleeve here. And there is the label. So actually, this record is a lot deeper than that song, but I think that song sort of overwhelms the record. People know it and maybe not anything else, but it's a solid record. So thank you, Emma, for that. Number 21 from a guy who's bringing journalism to the VC. That is Carl Tweed over in England. Very well spoken. Always showing really interesting pop music. So he's got this playlist called Power Pop Shakers. And to my continuing embarrassment, he often shows bands from Canada that I've never heard of before. So he makes me feel like a bad Canadian from 1,000 miles away or whatever it is. So I don't know, he's a lover of power pop too. So very interesting channel, really great. And he said, Bin 42, record 45 with a note, if it's by Sloan, you'll be amazed by my psychic powers. Well, it's not Sloan, but it is pretty close, I have to say. It's in the S section, so you almost got it. In fact, you chose Sting, The Dream of the Blue Turtles, which of course is his well-known debut record in 1985 after the Police ended. And I will say right up front that there are a lot of people who don't like Sting. I think he's been called a wanker, whatnot. And, you know, to be honest, I actually quite like this record, although I didn't the first time I was exposed to it. So I think this is maybe his best record. It's very jazzy, as you might know. My friend had a copy of this record, and he played, you know, If You Love Someone. I heard the beginning of it many times. You know, it starts with If You Love Someone, Set Them Free, which is an okay song. Love is a Seventh Wave. I got a bit bored of that. In fact, I had another friend who had the cassette. My first copy was a cassette, and I heard that a little too often. Russians, maybe a little bit too obvious. Yeah, but the rest of the album, I think, really holds together. For example, Children's Crusade, I think, is a really good song. We Work the Black Seam, I think, is exceptional. Moon Over Bourbon Street I like, based on the Anne Rice novels. Fortress Around Your Heart I think is good. There are a couple songs that are maybe less interesting to me, but overall, I actually really do love this record. Which is weird because I didn't when it came out. So there's a lyric sheet in here. And I don't really have to say anything else about this record because it's very well known. You know the songs, I'm sure. And here is the blue labels, I guess. So yeah, I think it's probably in my opinion, the best thing he's done, but I could be convinced otherwise maybe. So thank you, Carl, for that. Not quite Sloan. Now, next is from possibly the most impatient person in the vinyl community, because since the time he chose the song, it's been comment after comment about, when are you going to show my record? I'm so disappointed you didn't show my record. Why are you taking so long to show my record? This is a guy who I think is maybe a shadow government employee for Australia, because he seems to be promoting Australia at every chance he gets, whether it be Mikey Young or Marmite. It's all Australia almost all of the time. So this is a guy known as Ben Rankins, king of fashion, king of shirts, all sorts of crazy nicknames. And he wrote, whatever bin and number record it is, never show Lou Reed's Ecstasy ever again. I'm not sure I can commit to that. I do like that record, and I'm sure it will come out again. I'm sorry about that. Also, I want bin 6, record 6, and hopefully there's something else with a 6 on the record chosen so you can get Satan involved in the discussion. Well, in the last or previous episode, Grumpy Record Collector chose 6-7, so this is adjacent to it, very close. I don't see any 6s anywhere here, but what you've chosen, Ben, is from 1978, Buzzcocks, Love Bites, which is truly fantastic. I don't have to tell you that. And of course, I guess this is best known for the single Ever Fallen in Love, which is truly wonderful. I think one of my favorite instrumentals of all time is from this record, Late for the Train, the last track on side 2. I mean, when I mentioned the record chosen by Grumpy Record Collector, I didn't really have much to say about Buzzcocks. I came to them rather late, I would say. I was trying to remember or discover somehow or figure out if the radio station I listened to at the time, and I wasn't listening to any good radio in 1978, let me tell you that, but later, I didn't hear this band on the radio. It was a long time after. I heard people talk about Buzzcocks, and I was like, who is this band? Didn't really know them. So it was a later discovery. So here's an insert with the members of the band. Here we have some information about where it was recorded and whatnot, the usual credit kind of things, who plays what instruments, etc. And just a plain white inner sleeve. Side 1, side 2. That's a fantastic record, let's be honest. I guess the good news is I did eventually discover Buzzcocks, but not in 1978. So, next record is from Spun Out 19, who said Cube 8, record 20. And there's something about Cube 8, interestingly, because this is a third record from Cube 8. It's also the third record from this particular artist. That is Canadian singer-songwriter Bruce Cockburn with Bone on Bone, which was released in 2017. I think this is somewhere around his 24th record, 25th, somewhere in there. I mean, if you count live records and compilations, it pushes it down the line a little bit more, but somewhere around 24, 25. Produced by Colin Linden. Now, this finds Bruce in, it was after a 6-year break, so he's, at this point, I'm not sure what age he was now. His birthday just passed. I think he turned 81 recently. Is it 81 or 82? He just turned this a few days ago. So this is, in his 70s, I guess early 70s, getting up there. His voice is a little weathered. The title apparently references the fact that he has arthritis and some of the old tracks he can no longer play. This is a really pleasant album because it sort of brings back some of the early acoustic sounds, which are really well done. But if I were to say one thing in adjacent to that, it would be that he's rediscovered religion here. I mean, in 1974-ish, he became a born-again Christian, and there are a few records in his collection which have overt Christian themes, the most notable being Dancing in the Dragon's Jaws, which has a track called Creation Dream, etc., No Footprints, etc. This one brings it back, so there's at least 4 tracks in here which are overtly religious, the most obvious one being Jesus Train, which I have to say is actually a fun track. It's quite good. 12 Gates to the City, 40 Years in the Wilderness. I'm not sure what the other one is. Looking and Waiting, maybe. Stabat Mater is a reference to an old piece of literature from the 800 years ago or something. It's actually really a strong record, I have to say. It's he sounds great, even though his voice is a bit older. Another downside might be the fact that he, I should preface this by saying that one of his hallmarks was the fact that on most of his records he did an instrumental track or two, usually one, for most of his records. And a lot of his records have one song sung in French. And I know people criticize his pronunciation, so there is a French song in here. And maybe not the best, but the guitar work is also great. It's great. There's the labels. So he's a favorite of mine. I have, as I mentioned just the other day, everything he's released on either CD or vinyl. Now, there are certain things that have never been released on vinyl that I'm hoping will be one day. Very prolific. And there's a song in here which I particularly like called The Three Alpertis. Now, some of you are wondering who Al Purdy is. He was a Canadian poet. In that song, he repeats some stanzas from Al Purdy poems. Now, just because I was close to my bookshelf, I found many of my Al Purdy collection, but not all. So I'm going to show you a couple of Al Purdy poems. The reason I'm showing these is because many of them are autographed. Now, there's one that I have that I couldn't find, in which he's actually made handwritten corrections. He crossed things out and changed things. There's Poems for All the Annettes. This is Wild. This is an Ex Libris copy of Wild. Something. Wild Grape Wine. What else? We've got some collected poems. We've got Piling Blood. Here's some collected poems. Many of these are autographed. I met him a couple of times, and I'll make a music-related comment here because I was at a party with him once through some literary thing somewhere, and I asked him about a famous party featuring Leonard Cohen, and he was able to shed some light on that. Fascinating, because I'm a big Leonard Cohen fan, so I was happy to have that conversation. So I met him, I think, twice. Yeah, twice. So let's see, who is next? Oh yeah, right. Another with the cool channel. So Mark Morris, I'm sure you know who he is. Do you know who he is? You should know who he is because he's quite good. He's formerly known as Rediscovering the Beatles. Maybe he should be now known as Rediscovering Welcome to My Nightmare. I'm not sure, although I don't think he ever forgot about that record. He said, "Fun idea, Brian. Looks like you already have a lot of responses, but just in case, I'll go with Cube 27, record number 4. Cube 27, record number 4, is a 12-inch single from Peter Murphy called Tale of the Tongue. This is a UK 12-inch single, of course, formerly of Bauhaus. And then he's forged out on a solo career. Well, there was some other things he did, but this is his first solo record. Now, it's weird, though, because Tale of the Tongue was originally released on the original UK pressing of Should the World Fail to Fall Apart, with the same image, different kind of paper, though. And then suddenly they swapped it out. So Tale of the Tongue is the third track here. But when it was reissued with a different cover, for some reason, I don't know if I like this cover or not, that song was removed. So Canvas Beauty shows up instead. I can't remember what the other change was, but they added The Light Pours Out of Me, the magazine song, which is, he does a pretty good job of that. He also covers Pere Ubu's Final Solution. So it's a weird change, and even the songs are in different order. But that's a pretty good song. It's funny that it was a single and then it was removed from the album, which is a really strange thing to do. But he's a favorite singer of mine. Love his voice. Kind of one of the founders of goth with Bauhaus. The flip side here is Should the World Fail to Fall Apart, which is a good song. And here is the Crazy label. So that's a really good selection from Mark there. So as I say, I will leave links to everyone or notes of who made these suggestions. If you watched the first video and you want to take part, go ahead or leave a comment here. It'll take a few more episodes to get through all of the records, but thanks once again for watching, and I will see you in the next video.